A Parent Wins, an adventure of a lifetime. A global expedition dedicated to collecting stories of environmental and cultural preservation while conducting marine research aboard sailing vessel Resilience.
In Alaska, in this vast wilderness, it was interesting because you still felt like you were alone, like there were no other people around. But I almost say that you could also feel the connection of humanity with nature so strongly because of the fishing that goes on there, the hunting, the sort of everyday sort of lifestyle things like picking berries, going, watching the bears and the people and the eagles all feed on the salmon and all like have this sort of part of their lives that's a cycle throughout the year. And so even though it's this extreme wilderness, it's such an obvious display of humanity's connection with nature. We went to Alaska for a lot of reasons, but I'd say the most important one and that we really stuck to was to set our lens and to learn and to begin this entire 10-year journey somewhere that could help us gain perspective. And having been through Alaska the summer before and meeting the folks that we did, including Louise and our friend June and several others, we realized that we could come back and learn a lot, and it's a perfect, beautiful example of what we're trying to share.
Today we've been traveling all day, about 10 hours, and we started down here on Barnoff Island where this green dot is, and we've made it all the way up to where we are, this red arrow, and we're heading in. This is the entrance right here of Glacier Bay National Park, and so we got to stop over here at Bartlett Cove where the National Park Service is. But it's wild because this park, Glacier Bay, goes all the way up, if you look at this, all the way up from here into these deep fingers, and the whole terrain changes. We just passed by a glacier, and you can just see, going from rocky but tree-covered mountains to just glacier and snow and rock. It's absolutely incredible. You can already see so many birds around here, and because we're in this we're in a wilderness within a wilderness, a national park within a wilderness. We went to Glacier Bay just to get up there and see it and experience the wildlife and share a little bit of it. But also, I had my dad in town and his buddy Jeff, who were sailing with us, and we just got aboard this boat, so they were really excited to come visit. And so that was a big thing for us too. It was actually really sweet for both of them. They're a little bit older, and this was a big thing on their bucket list. And so to see Glacier Bay through their eyes was like a whole other bonus. Slowly the water got colder and more little icebergs or berglets were scattered across the water, and before we knew it, we were in this expansive field of ice, watching, just in the distance, watching these glaciers calve, and you'd hear them every so often. You'd hear the cracking, and then you'd look, and it's almost like seeing a whale breach. You see it out of the corner of your eye, and you just see the splash if you didn't catch it in time. But to have that time with my father on board and with Jeff on board was really special.
Nice and tight. Keep pulling at the end of every turn. And when you get to the very top of the rope, you may be there. Okay? Let me put this through here for you. So I want to let go of the last one. I'm going to stick it through this way. See that little loop? Tight.
Jeff, what are we learning here?
We're whipping the end of the line. No, you don't have to do anything with that.
Tight.
Hang on. So you take your hands and get that back over there.
Okay.
And then I'll pull it down tighter. You got your tongue working, that's just right. Now it's buried inside there. The end.
Now you can snip off both ends and won't unwind.
That's off. Hats off to Mary. How's that look?
Beautiful.
keeps it from unfraying, right? Yeah.
What's your experience in the ocean?
I've been at sea for almost 50 years.
Wow.
I've had a good time. It's been a good life.
What were you doing on the ocean?
Mostly I was captain of some sort of vessel, ranging from tugboats to casino vessels, and my favorite were research vessels because there was always a problem to be solved, and we all put our heads together to solve it.
That's pretty cool.
I was probably
Research
tugboating too.
What kind of research vessels? What kind of projects were going on
We did
those vessels?
whale surveys, population counts in the Bay of Fundy for harbor porpoise,
Wow, that's cool.
tagging whales with with a whale gun to put a tag in them so they could be followed electronically.
So like a satellite tag?
Yep.
Cool. What kinds of whales?
Almost all humpbacks. So,
Are you retired now?
yes, I'm quasi-retired, I guess.
Quasi-retired.
So here we have the finished product. That's an eye splice with the bitter end whipped. Whipping good.
Glacier Bay was the furthest north we made it on this journey. Glacier Bay is just one of these places that you almost can't remember when you see it after a couple weeks because it's just too stunning to like hold on to. You just hope, I just hope, when you're in an area like that, I'm in an area like that I can hold on to the impression that it makes because it is a lasting one. It's a powerful one. So after a few days in Glacier Bay, we headed out and, of course, passed whales all over the place, humpbacks doing their different displays. They're feeding up there and that time of year. And we headed out and I suppose we began our way south. That would be the furthest north that we'd be in Alaska. Before you knew it, we were back in Sitka and dropped off my father and picked up my mother, my stepfather.
It is August 25th, and we are finally leaving Sitka. We got here on the 5th, so it's been 20 days. We thought we'd be here a long time, and we thought it would feel like this whole summer up in Sitka, but no, it's been crazy, it's been fast, it's been wonderful, and now we're headed out. So we got a lot of miles to cover. Right now it is kind of misty, a little cloudy, and the only big weather thing that we need to look out for is some pretty strong southeast winds. I heard some fishermen talking about it walking down the dock that we might have really strong winds coming in. So as long as we can get back into a protected area before that happens, we'll be good.
We took off from Sitka and we had a few anchorages, got out in the dinghy, did some fly fishing, saw a lot of bears. Saw a lot of whale, and we worked our way south. And on the way, we had one really neat stop in Little Port Walter. We had been there on the way up, and we had met some folks that were really willing to speak with us from NOAA, from the Department of Commerce up there. They have this fishery or hatchery right there in Little Port Walter, and it's a place that over the years, for a very long time, they've been doing research, studying bees at one point, birds. It's not just fish, but fish being Alaska and salmon, being there, those were the largest sort of projects they have.
So Little Port Walter started being used in the 1920s to study herring, and from then until the 70s, both herring and pink salmon, aka humpies, were being studied here. And then in the 70s, they started studying Chinook, aka king salmon. They tag 100% of their Chinook salmon, and they use that to help estimate numbers of Chinook salmon based on the catch of the commercial fisheries. So the research being done here is especially important for the salmon treaty between Canada and the United States because it informs all the decisions there and keeps numbers more accurate because they are the only facility that tags 100% of their Chinook salmon.
So we pulled into Little Port Walter and connected with the folks we had met there on the way up, got a tour of the facilities, got to learn a lot about what they're doing. And it was interesting to hear that and to learn from them as we're talking about conservation and we're talking about responsible ways to collect and use resources in the area. Hatcheries are a big topic in Alaska, whether we should have them, whether we shouldn't have them. You know, the idea is that we're producing more salmon, but then also the main downfall that I heard from other folks, or problem that folks had, was that it also weakened the gene pool of the salmon. But when we went to Little Port Walter, we got a chance to hear the perspective of the folks at NOAA and learn a little bit more about their hatchery. And what stuck with me is that we're learning and we don't know what's right or wrong sometimes. But the folks there at Little Port Walter, at the end of the day, they care. They want to do the right thing. They're really intelligent people trying to do their best. And that's, I would think, where people can come to the table. And that was really refreshing to kind of see and hear. It's because when you put a face to it and you can talk and have a conversation, they also understand that there are these problems and, we need to learn more and so on, but they're trying to do their best and they definitely care. And the wildlife in Little Port Walter was incredible. Bears everywhere, feeding off the salmon, walking on the shoreline. I remember when we first pulled in on the way up, I heard what I thought was like a chainsaw or a weed whacker, like a sort of sound, but it's kind of weird. And then I look over and I saw this massive grizzly bear right in the river and a couple of them kind of fighting with each other. Everywhere, it's just this, Louise Brady, I think, said this cacophony of life. That this entire area is just this coming together of all these different species, including us, because of all these resources. As we rounded out and finished up our time in Alaska and we had to begin going south, I couldn't help, think about what it meant to be up there and what we learned from the place. The biggest things that kept on coming to mind were that connection of and collision of natural resources and wilderness and humanity. Alaska is a place that has a ton of hope. The resources haven't been all taken, and there's such a strong conversation of how to balance those and strike that balance between industries and preservation. We go from place to place all around the world, and that's a big part of our mission, is to go to places. We're trying to learn from those places, but with those places, we also are trying to learn from and meet people. And it's interesting, depending on who we meet, and it's always something different, but you learn to see the world from other people's perspectives. And there are little gems in there of what you can learn to appreciate or just see differently. It's complicated just because all of us have our own lives and our own perspectives and completely different ways of looking at things. We assume that we think the same way oftentimes, but we don't. We all have our own experiences. So to be able to spend time with different people in different parts of the world, whether they're visiting with us and they're experiencing a new place with us, or if we're experiencing a place that somebody's from and they love and they are part of, it's just a really beautiful opportunity. And it reminds us of how similar I think we are, but also how different. And it's just a really special opportunity to be able to see things in life and experience things through other people's point of view.